We live in an age obsessed with happiness. We read books about it, we watch TED Talks about it, we even measure our success by how happy we feel. Yet, depression, anxiety, and loneliness are higher than ever. So what if the more we chase happiness, the further it runs? What if the constant pursuit of joy is the very thing making us miserable? Psychologists call this the happiness paradox, the idea that the more we value happiness, the less happy we become. It's counterintuitive. You'd think focusing on happiness would make life better, but it often does the opposite. Because when we treat happiness as a goal, every moment that doesn't feel good suddenly feels like failure. We start judging our sadness, fearing our boredom, and resenting our pain. In other words, we become unhappy about being unhappy. And that's the trap. In the past few decades, happiness became a product. Every app, advertisement, and influencer promises the same thing. If you just buy this, achieve this, or become this, you'll finally be happy. It's not just marketing, it's a cultural shift. We now expect happiness to be our default state. But that's not how the human mind evolved. For most of history, we weren't designed to be constantly content. We were designed to survive. Our brains evolved to detect threats, compare ourselves to others, and stay alert. That's why even when life is objectively good, we still feel uneasy. This bias, called negative affectivity, kept our ancestors alive. But in modern life, it's misfiring. And when society tells us that unhappiness is a personal failure, that natural discomfort turns into shame, we start believing there's something wrong with us if we're not happy all the time. That belief feeds anxiety. And anxiety, ironically, kills happiness. Here's where it gets worse. Even when we do feel happy, the feeling doesn't last. Psychologists call this the hedonic treadmill. No matter what happens, we return to our baseline of happiness. You buy a new phone, you feel great for a week, you land your dream job. For a few months, you're elated, but then your brain adapts. The excitement fades. You need more to feel the same. Like a treadmill you keep running, but never get anywhere. This is why billionaires can feel empty and people living with less can feel content. Because happiness, as it turns out, doesn't come from external achievements. It comes from how we relate to our experiences, not what those experiences are. One of the most overlooked killers of happiness is expectation. When you expect life to be happy, every moment that isn't becomes unacceptable. We resist sadness, avoid discomfort, and numb ourselves through distractions, scrolling, binging, overworking. But emotions don't disappear when ignored. They build pressure. Carl Jung once said, "What you resist persists," and modern psychology agrees. Emotional suppression increases distress. The truth is, happiness isn't the absence of pain. It's the capacity to hold pain without collapsing. Those who accept their emotions, even the dark ones, paradoxically suffer less. Studies by psychologists Iris Maus and June Gruber found that people who highly value happiness often feel lonelier and more depressed. Why? Because when you set happiness as a standard, you're constantly evaluating whether you've reached it. And that self-monitoring makes you more self-conscious and less present. It's like trying to fall asleep while constantly checking if you're asleep yet. The harder you try, the less it happens. This is called the paradoxical effect, when the effort to control emotions backfires. The same applies to happiness. The harder we chase it, the more it eludes us. Real growth, meaning, and even joy often come through discomfort. Think about it. The moments that define us, heartbreaks, failures, grief, are the same ones that deepen our capacity for empathy, strength, and appreciation. Without sadness, happiness would have no contrast. Without struggle, triumph would have no flavor. The philosopher Alan Watts said, "To strive for happiness is to postpone it, because happiness isn't a permanent state, it's a fleeting visitor that arrives when we stop demanding it." When you stop trying to feel good all the time, you start feeling alive instead. Modern therapy approaches like acceptance and commitment therapy are built around this insight. Instead of trying to eliminate negative thoughts, acceptance and commitment therapy teaches you to accept them and live according to your values, not your moods. This shift changes everything. When you stop fighting sadness, it loses its power. When you stop chasing happiness, moments of joy arise naturally, unforced. Mindfulness works the same way. By paying attention without judgment, you step out of the tug of war between how you feel and how you think you should feel. You begin to see emotions like waves, temporary, natural, and necessary. Maybe the real goal isn't happiness, it's meaning. Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist who survived Auschwitz, wrote, "Happiness cannot be pursued, it must ensue. It is the unintended side effect of one's dedication to a cause greater than oneself." Meaning gives suffering context. It transforms pain into purpose. It allows joy to grow out of struggle, not in spite of it. When you focus on meaning, relationships, creativity, contribution, happiness stops being something to chase. It becomes something that follows. So what happens when you step off the treadmill? You start noticing small joys that were invisible before. Sunlight through leaves, laughter between friends, the warmth of coffee on a cold morning. You stop asking, "Am I happy right now?" And instead you simply experience the moment. That's real peace, not a manic high, but a quiet contentment that doesn't depend on circumstances. Because happiness was never meant to be hunted, it was meant to be noticed. So maybe happiness isn't the treasure at the end of the road. Maybe it's the dust on your shoes as you walk it. The paradox of happiness is simple. You can't grasp it. You can only let it happen. When you stop trying to engineer every emotion, when you allow sadness its space and joy its mystery, life becomes deeper, richer, and more real. So don't chase happiness. Live meaningfully, and happiness will quietly follow.